Okay, let me know when we're live. All right, everybody. Thank you, Jane. We are live here for Career Lab Wednesday, every noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. Welcome, Eric. Good to have you on. And welcome, Dr. Gordon Medlock. It's been a little bit since you were on over the holidays, so welcome back. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. Good to be back.
So we figured it's appropriate to talk about being social. On Career Lab, we are here to answer any questions that you have. You don't have to stick to the topic. Anything career related that you're working on, we're here to support you with that. But given that we are in the time of a lot of connecting, networking, seeing families, seeing friends, we figured that talking about being social is a good idea and how to get more out of relationships, how to get more out of your connections. And so anything that anybody has any questions about that, let us know. So as we're kicking off here, I want to tell everybody how you can join in. So what you want to do is come into the Zoom link. That's going to be best for us to work with you one-to-one for direct coaching. If that doesn't work for you, you can just view in through LinkedIn Live or YouTube. And if you have questions, type them into the comments section and Jane will get those over to us. So again, any and all questions are open. As long as they're career related, we will do our best to serve you today. So with that being said, know that you can type your comments in your questions into the comment section and Jane will get those over to us. So Dr. Medlock, as we're getting into today, is there anything you'd like to share with us about being social and networking and how that impacts us in our careers?
Sure, I'd be happy to, George Donald. Thank you. I was just thinking about this, and one of the myths about this time of year is, oh, people aren't hiring. Everybody's too busy. Everybody's going on vacation. So don't put much energy into your job search. Wait till January. Well, that would be a mistake because there's this kind of inertia that you want to maintain, or a momentum. And if you're not going forward during this time of year, you're going to find yourself kind of slow to pick up again in January. So it's true that oftentimes hiring managers are on vacation or not focusing as much on that. But the building of your social networks, talking about your situation, what you're looking for with friends, with family, at gatherings, sometimes the most surprising connections will come up over a holiday dinner when somebody knows somebody who says, oh, you got to talk to my brother, Uncle Fred. He's the one who's been looking for somebody for what you're doing. So have it be part of your conversation with all of your social gatherings, to just be talking about what you're interested in, what you're seeing evolving, the kind of challenge of being in a job transition, if that's the case. The cool thing about our country is that everybody can relate to the uncertainty of jobs and the transitions of jobs and how they evolve. So everybody will have a story to share and they'll have ideas to share with you as well. So use your social relationships to continue to network and be orienting toward really being able to hit the ground running in January when you're ready to really start digging in on the search itself. So George Donald, that's what I'm thinking would, setting a little context.
That's fantastic. Because one of the things that we talk about is the holidays can be a time of really deepening connection if we come into it with the intention of creating that. But how many holidays have you spent where you're going through them, kind of doing the same old, and kind of going on automatic pilot and not really being present to what you could do? And is that really the way that you would want to spend holiday time? So let's say that I have a job, or I'm currently looking for something, or I'm unhappy in my current job, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do anything. I want to just, kind of get through it the way that I'm used to doing it. That's an option, totally. What we're suggesting is, what if I brought in some of the things that I'm working on into conversation with friends and family members, saying, I'm having some challenges in this area. I'm looking for help with this, or this is what I'm interested in. This is where I'm thinking about going. Do you know anybody? and bringing that in, that can be an incredibly important thing to do, instead of or alongside with watching the football matches, watching all of that stuff. That's totally fine, but looking at the ways to deepen connection, to get social in a way that serves you. So that's what I was thinking about. And there's even a way of learning how to talk about myself. So if you're early on in your job interviews and you've got a lot of fears about that, and you're kind of working through your pitch and how to talk about yourself, this is a great time. You're talking to a lot of people that are often a great audience. And so I wanted to mention that as well. So again, welcome everybody. This is Career Lab Wednesday, every Wednesday noon to 1 p.m. Central Time. We're here to support you in your career. Any questions are welcome. You can jump in directly here on LinkedIn. Zoom is the best. If you're only viewing in through LinkedIn Live or YouTube, you can type your questions into the comments section. Welcome again, Eric and Joe. Good to have you on. Welcome, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Medlock, anything that you'd like to add?
Well, actually, I'm curious to hear from Joe. I always like it when Joe shows up. So can you give us a little quick update on how things are going in Hawaii?
Things are going great, except on the Big Island, they have a little volcano activity going on, which happens every so often. The Big Island, the largest island, the island in Hawaii is the youngest island. So the lava there is still molten underneath. It's not completely rock solid at the core. And so it comes up every once in a while. And so now it's activated again, currently not threatening any substantial infrastructure. So everything's kind of calm right now, although the people are a little worried. So, but that's on a different island, so different county, but I still stay abreast of all those things that are going on. In Honolulu, we're working through a Second Amendment issue right now. We're still going through, we're having hearings now on where you could possibly carry, concealed carry on a weapon system, something that Hawaii's not done for 150 years. So it's very unusual for our society. They're trying to get used to this based off the New York Supreme Court ruling based off New York and Broome. So we're working through all of that. Those are kind of the things that I continue to work internally in the department, teaching our officers that they got to get used to people carrying concealed. But these are law-abiding citizens that just want an opportunity to protect themselves, being that the police aren't always around. We can't be everywhere. So I understand it, getting through the politics of all of that too, as there, even though you're a chief and you're supposed to be apolitical, there are politics in any organization such as us.
I'm curious, I wasn't aware, what was the New York judgment on concealed carry that you're referencing?
So the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned or basically ruled in favor of the gun club in New York, the Broome case, that said we can no longer ask people why they want to carry. They just have a right to conceal, carry open or conceal. And so we've now had to change our rules. Before we asked you why. And if you didn't give us, a decent reason why you needed to protect yourself, knowing that the police are there in public safety, then, they were never issued. There were a couple over the years, but so it's something I never thought I'd have to do. But now that I'm in this position, it's inevitable that I will start doing this.
Wow.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, that also must add another dimension to your officer's work as well, in terms of that being a new reality to have to manage, I imagine. So.
Right. So it's how do they respond to these types of cases where people might complain about, hey, that guy has a gun. Well, did you see a gun? Well, it looks like it's under his shirt. Okay, so and then what do we do? Or do we go to a scene and you have two people that are concealed carry that got into a road rage incident, and both are pointing guns at each other, and then the police show up. We don't know the bad person is, right? We just see two guys with guns. Now, what do we do, and how do we de-escalate that situation so no one gets hurt and everybody can go home at the end of the day?
Mhm.
Now, somebody might go to jail first, but that's beside the point. Nobody's hurt.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of challenges there. So I appreciate you working with all that. It's an important issue for us to create that kind of safety for everyone. So appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those are the, things that are my messages to the department internally is, how do I help all of you do your job? And how do I take some of the most critical stuff that we do off your plate, that may be somebody else's responsibility, like dealing with those that are going through a mental crisis, drug addiction, or alcohol induced crisis. Not really a law enforcement issue as in a criminal offense, but how do we support those that are interacting with those individuals to protect everyone, but at the same time backing ourselves away from that situation and letting others take over and help ease that crisis.
So I think this is a thing we can broaden this, I think, to all of our listeners right now, in terms of the nature of a job is the ability to be a creative problem solver, finding solutions, being able to look at the vision of how you want things to be able to think on your feet, be present to what's going on, to be very alert. Certainly the notion of presence that we emphasize a lot in our educational process here, just being emotionally present to what's going on with you and with the person you're interacting with, is heightened in the situations you're talking about. In fact, for police officers, I'm sure that is a critical skill set, to be able to monitor and sense what's going on in the moment and not just be, reacting without thought. So, but it's true for all of us, whatever job we're having, we're engaged in a process of exploring solutions to problems that maybe didn't exist a year ago, that we're facing situations that are new, that we haven't been used to. And so your ability to be a creative problem solver is probably one of your biggest assets as an employee, and something that you always want to be, looking at what it is you're good at and what are the stories you have to support your own development and growth and the skills you've got. So this is a good time to be thinking about that for yourself. A lot of people at this time of year look at educational options. What are the gaps that I have right now in my skill set, and what maybe do I need to learn, or what schooling might I want to get, or what training would I like during this time, particularly if there's not as much job activity going on right now. This might be a good time to do one of those courses you've been thinking about, or look at a certification that was important to you. So you just want to be engaged, keep moving forward, no matter what the objective situation is. You keep generating for yourself. That's where the possibilities will come, and having that positive attitude as you're approaching it. So.
No, absolutely. And I tell all my officers, you're lifelong learners. Just because you started this profession doesn't mean it ends here and you're just a law enforcement person. You got to think about leadership. And what does that mean? And that any organization, no matter whether you're law enforcement or business, to be a leader, and how do you lead? And so it's really important that you stay abreast of what the current leadership roles, responsibilities, and the new ideas about how to lead others, and and understanding psychology. I can't express how important psychology is in understanding people, whether they're baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Z, or millennials, and how they perceive the world that they live in, and how important, like somebody for me who's the end of the baby boomer generation, but how do I interact with a millennial or Gen Z person that doesn't see the world the way I do? And so how do I help them help themselves? So you as a leader, you constantly got to learn, and you got to keep reading, and you got to keep listening to podcasts or anything out there that'll help you understand your job and your role. And it never ends. I'm 63 and I'm still learning.
Good for you. Good for you.
I love it, Joe. That everybody is learning and growing for life, that's part of it, and that anything I can be doing to learn more about people I'm working with, people that are in my life. I can speak. I'm just getting back from visiting family on the East Coast, and there's always more. there's always so much more to discover about my family, these people that I grew up with. And it's really remarkable to me. And getting more context of what was happening around. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and learning about the Mennonite Amish immigration over there, and like the part of my family that came over, and getting the challenges that they had, and how that has set up my great grandparents, my grandfather, my dad, and like putting me in place with all of this has been really, really fascinating. And this is like the 5th time I've done it. So there's more to like dig into and get, and I'm learning more. So I really like what you're sharing, Joe. And in terms of connecting and building rapport with people, that's something I'm continuing to work on. And I'm imagining, with your development and with the people that you're working with, and this goes to everybody, to broaden this, as you are engaging over holiday time with friends and family, of you learning how to do things a little differently, learning more about the person so that you can serve them better, so that you can find out what's a useful thing to them. That's only going to help you in your interviews and what you're doing in your career, to learn how to really get to know people. Such a valuable thing that we're talking about.
Well said.
Yeah, it's so important. I'll walk around the streets, in uniform when I'm doing in meeting people, and I'll just walk up to any random person and just start talking. And it's amazing what you'll find out and what their perceptions are on different things. And it may have nothing to do with your profession, but it may have something to do about life. And you may say, hey, I remember talking to a coworker about this, a couple of weeks ago, and then you kind of piece it together, and then the puzzle starts to form, and then you as a person grows, and you're that much better at the office.
Yeah.
And that goes for any profession, any organization. Don't be afraid to meet people and just talk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's beautiful. Well, sweet. Well, thank you so much, Joe. And I see, Sahar, we've got you joining in, and I would love to hear any updates on your interview process.
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, I did get unfortunate update. Yes, not yesterday, the day before, I think on Monday, that I did not make it to the next round. But I did get some really good feedback from the hiring manager, which was not, he didn't mention the thing that I thought that the reason that I thought that I didn't get it. He mentioned, just the fact that there was another candidate that had more of the global project experience, which was one of the 2 questions that I knew I, didn't do well on. But he didn't mention anything about like, not having enough leadership or, management experience. So, yeah, it was good feedback. I was sad to get that news, but it's not often that you get such, I guess, candid feedback from an interview. So I was glad that I got that. And also he did say that he would keep me in mind for anything else that comes up on his team. So it was good. I think it was good to make that connection.
Excellent.
Good to hear, Sahar. So what's your sense of kind of overall where you landed with through this interview process?
What do you mean by that?
Good question. In terms of where you're going and what you're wanting in your career, how has this helped you?
I think that there was probably a part of me that was hesitant about the role specifically. So I think that it probably solidified for me that I have to, pay more attention to what I'm interested in. And, maybe this role wouldn't have set me up for success necessarily, or may have been too much of a reach. I'm not really sure. I guess I'm still kind of processing it, but I think that it made me kind of question the reasons for why I had originally applied for that role. I think for me, I get caught up in titles a lot. And I think for me, the title of this role was attractive. So that's what kind of like I think for me, it made me think about like, okay, is it only about the title? Like I really need to look deeper into something, and also, process why title is such an important thing for me personally, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Great inquiry. That is excellent to be looking at that question. And I think this issue of rightness of fit, what am I learning? And what is, you're playing with a market that's got all kinds of variations. So, and sometimes a job title will give you, you have 10 different examples of a particular job title. Each of them will actually be a different job. So it's kind of tricky to really understand. But I think it's great that you're looking at that and notice what's the best fit for you in terms of your interest, what you do well, what you really enjoy doing, not just the job, but also the culture that you're in. And what's the culture of the organization? So really looking at that, I think, is a really critical piece. I'm glad you brought it in terms of rightness of fit. Do I match up, and where is it click and where is it not clicking, and just paying attention to that. And then you just keep learning. You keep refining your search based on what you're noticing and how that's evolving for you. So.
Fantastic. And Sahar, I'm curious, would you like to explore that a little bit right now, of what it means to you, what the title means to you?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I think it's probably like a very deep topic, but we could get into it briefly.
Cool. Yeah. And as soon as don't say anything you don't want to say.
Yeah.
We can always continue later. But when you look at the title and what do you notice any feelings, or what are the feelings that it brings up for you?
Yeah, I think I feel like I'm kind of like behind in some way, or feel like I'm not good enough for certain roles because of the title. And I know a lot of people like compare themselves to other people their age. So I tend to compare myself to other people my age at my company, and they've moved on to the next level in title and I haven't. So I think for me that like I tend to compare in my head, like, okay, why have they moved on to the next title and why have I not? Like, what am I missing? So I think it definitely kind of makes me feel like, kind of unworthy in some way, or that I'm doing something wrong, or like there's something wrong about me personally that's preventing me from getting to that. And it might not even be that I want that title. It's more just like, oh, why do they have it and why do I not? Like, am I somehow not good enough compared to them?
Okay, gotcha. And you can, I imagine, think of other areas where this kind of pattern of thinking you're not good enough plays out, where this isn't the only time, I imagine.
Yeah, I think so. I think it plays out in other areas of life, relationships, and like, not for women, I think like not having children by a certain age is a big thing. So that's definitely a big area that I always feel like I'm comparing myself with other women my age and so forth. So yeah, it definitely plays out in other areas. I think the career area is definitely a sticking point for me, because I feel like, I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of years.
I'd like to jump in on this one, if I may, in this conversation, because we all have this tendency when we're feeling disappointed or something doesn't work out. We have a limiting belief, is what we call it, that kicks in, that becomes a judgment about ourselves in some way. And actually, that process tends to be very, it's human nature, but it's also very unhelpful in terms of actually getting the data that you want to make better decisions. Because as long as you're in that judgment about yourself, you're not really going to be able to look at, well, what's the actual data here? What was there about, what is the difference? What, if my friend got promoted, what was she doing that was different than what I was doing? Oh, she's doing in this area. That's not even my interest. I'm interested in this area. So whenever we're going to a comparison of where do we fit, we're in a process of self-judgment where we don't have compassion for ourselves. And it's really, as a learner, as a lifelong learner, we were talking about that earlier, it really requires us to have a compassion toward ourselves so that we are not getting caught in those self-judgments. Even when we're judging ourselves, to notice it and be compassionate about it, but not get stuck in it. Like, oh, okay, I have this criticism of myself, this limiting belief. Well, maybe that's a way that you've learned to protect yourself from some of the pain of disappointment. Okay, thank you for that strategy, but it's not really useful for me right now anymore. So what I need to do is shift my focus to what's the vision of where I really want to go in my career, and what am I learning about where my gaps are or aren't, and what can I actually work on that would be helpful to get where I want to go. And now you're in a productive conversation about where you're going to develop, as opposed to that critical conversation, that negative conversation that keeps you stuck where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the protective aspect of it definitely resonates with me. You know, you kind of limit yourself to certain growth opportunities because you only want to reach for what you think you can get. And you're 100% confident you can get, and sometimes it's too disappointing to go for something and then not get it. Get your hopes up and then not get it.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, yeah. It's the pain only comes up when we're going for something we really want, right? So
yeah.
That's the bummer.
But also the other point that I realized was title doesn't necessarily always connect with happiness, and so that's something that I'm trying to connect in my mind for future roles that I apply to. There are other roles that are going to be coming out, so I know that I'll definitely be applying for something else soon, but I think that I have to make sure that I'm just not just looking at the title and making sure it's the description of what I'll be doing is actually something I want to do. Because other people my age might have the title, but they might not be necessarily happy just because they have the title, right?
This is so good. I want everybody to hear this. I'm like, hallelujah. Seriously, this is beautiful, because that and so much of titles and that kind of thing can get plucked around and manipulated in ways that can become meaningless anyway. And what I'm hearing you're saying is that you're facing those limiting beliefs of not being enough. You're challenging them. You're going on interviews, and okay, this one didn't work out, but you're getting more data about you and about what really matters to you. And this is what we talk about is yearning, which I'm going to jump back to here in a second, and engagement. You're engaging so that you know more about yourself. And without doing that, you're never going to get to where you could get to. And so just by you engaging in the activity is so freaking important. So I'm saying this again and again because I want everybody to hear it. And the next piece of this is what Dr. Medlock, you set up about the context of where we're going and how to reprogram the limiting beliefs. In Dr. Judith Wright's research, what she got to was this universal language of yearnings, and learning to identify the yearnings underneath the title. And what if I could get that title, what that would really do for me. So there's a so that game that we can play if you're up for it.
Oh, gosh. Sure, yeah. Okay, cool. I kind of see where this is headed. I already have some answers.
Awesome. So you would like to have the title so that
I feel more important.
And you'd like to feel more important so that
I feel that I have worth as a human being in my career and in life in general.
So you believe that the job title is connected to this yearning to have worth, but that's the pathway, right? And so if the limiting belief is if I don't get that title, then I won't have worth, right? That's the trap, as opposed to, oh, that's what I'm really yearning for. So what other ways could you get that yearning met besides looking at the job title?
And so this is the beautiful thing of the law of little things, because I've programmed myself to some degree to get to exactly where I'm at, and I'm going to just stay the same because that's the safest thing to do. And yet I have this yearning. I want more. I want to develop myself. So there's always this struggle. And so the approach that we take is to get better with yearnings. And so I don't have to wait for my yearning to get met once I get the title. I can do a bunch of things that get that deeper yearning met in a variety of ways. I don't have to hold out for the one and only thing as if that's the only way I would get it. In fact, getting more of my moment to moment yearnings met is only going to increase the likelihood that I would get that title. And this is a very different approach than a lot of other kind of positive psychology things, because we're really looking at all the sweet and the bitter, the light and the dark. And so we're acknowledging the pain, we're acknowledging the losses and saying, yeah, that's part of this game. But I can, even in the loss and even in the disappointment, is the possibility for me to meet that deeper yearning that I have. And so now I can begin benefiting from more and more of life and not just having to wait for the title or wait for, some kind of nice surprise. So from this point then, so that I am worthy, and to even like really just be with that. I mean, my goodness. Joe, thank you. Thank you for kicking us off, Joe. Good luck with everything. I'm thinking of you and sending prayers.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
Love.
And so in that, Sahar, the yearnings of being worthy. And I'm going to suggest that one of those was simply you doing the interview process, even if you didn't get it. But just doing this, you actually proved to yourself in some ways, I'm worthy. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I think just going through the process, I kind of, knew that I had a chance at it, and knowing that I, was like in the top 10, that was even good to hear that, right?
Yes, yes. Now, can you identify a couple other places or things you could do to meet that deeper yearning? Might have nothing to do with career either, but that to meet the deep yearning of mattering, that I really matter.
I think more of things I do outside of work at this point, honestly, like whether it's, a hobby that I pursue, or, trying to be there for friends when they need me, those type of things. I think those definitely fulfill the same yearning for me, or make me feel worthy.
Beautiful.
Uh-huh. And is there something that you could do that would take like a minute to 2 minutes that you could think of? Like with the friends, that's kind of an easy one. Maybe of just sending a message, hey, I was thinking of you.
Yeah.
And do you get that sensation in your body, that kind of feeling, that yummy feeling?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So are you going to do that?
I'll try.
One time,
I'll try.
just one time, because if we try to say more than one time, we're usually full of BS.
Yeah, no, I can definitely do that.
Cool. So and thank you for playing with this, because that is the way, one of the processes for learning to meet these deeper yearnings more regularly and build those up and not have to wait. So that's beautiful. Sweet. Eric, take care. Good luck in your meeting. So for everybody viewing in, this is fantastic. Sarah, thank you so much for walking us through that, for that journey, because that's a way that as we're coming into the holiday times, we started off talking about, nobody's hiring right now because it's holiday season. And so I should take my foot off that gas pedal for now, and saying, no, there's all kinds of ways to have meaningful interaction, even if it's not directly job related, that can be developing myself so that when January comes, I'm in great shape for it, that I'm lined up to be doing really well. And by the way, I don't know about that, because I've had a bunch of people hire me in December over the past several years. So I just don't know that if there's any truth to that or not. So maybe that's just everybody getting ready for January. We'll see. Oh, wait, Sahar, will you share that?
I didn't want to get too deep into it, but I just want another thing that I,
I would love for
learned
you
from
to
the
share.
experience.
Please do.
Because that applies to a lot of areas of life too. I think not just career, because we get rejected in so many ways throughout life. Get rejected by friends, get rejected in relationships. Get rejected by parents in ways that they might not know that they're rejecting us when we're kids, etc. So
That's what
yeah.
Sahar shared was that another thing she got from the interview process here is getting comfortable with rejection and not taking it personally. Yeah. That's a huge takeaway.
It's hard not to take it personally.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I will take it personally. I will take it personally, and I'll use the tools I've been developing to meet the deeper yearning and say, okay, here's what really happened. Here's what I'm learning from it, and to kind of, in the end, not take it personally. But I will feel hurt most of the time.
Yeah, well, I think it does affect like confidence going into, let's say you have another interview and in a week or two after that and you just got rejected. It definitely affects your confidence level when you go into the next one. So you have to kind of find a way to cleanse yourself of that before you go into another one.
I'd like to suggest sometimes the language we use can get us in trouble. You use the word rejected. I would say that you weren't rejected. What you discovered was the fit wasn't right between you and that job.
So redirected.
Yeah. It's not it's like you're doing a sort. It's like if you're dating and then a date is like, I don't think this is quite right for me. It's just a matter of, oh, this wasn't the right, we didn't have the right energy. It's not like it says something about my limitation. This means that particular relationship didn't go where it might, and that's a good sort for me to move on. So there's really no rejection here. There's simply that guy's got his own process, who's ever interviewing you. He's got other relationships, somebody else he's already connected with that he's interested in. And, so to George Donald's point, yes, we'll feel the ouch, but you don't have to get stuck in that ouch. You don't have to carry limiting beliefs about my own limitations because of that ouch. It's more like, oh, that's data. So actually, a lot of times in our career lab, what we'd often do is have somebody go out and intentionally get rejected at least 5 times. So in other words, like going for rejection, so that you realize that you can, what we call rejection is simply, oh, it just didn't work out, but that's okay. I'll try that position and see what happens. So the fact that you now feel more comfortable in your own skin because you've been able to manage those feelings is going to help you in all your interviews. So I would just caution you against using the word rejection on it and just really look at it as, oh, that fit wasn't right at that point.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And thank you, Dr. Medlock, for the reframe on helping me understand not taking it personally on a deeper level. That's beautiful. Well, sweet. Well, I think that the next thing that I can tee up here is tomorrow evening's event on authenticity. Plays a whole lot into what we're talking about. The power of authenticity. So some of the skills that we talked a little bit about here and this process, Dr. Lisa Sandin will be taking those deeper. And Dr. Medlock, as we're closing out here, is there anything that you'd like to add about that? I know you and Dr. Lisa Sandin work closely together.
I will say that topic for me is a particularly important one. And the quality of you being genuinely you in any aspect of your career, in your life, is a gift, and people will respond to that. And that usually requires some degree of vulnerability, of letting go of a persona and being more genuine, and knowing how to do that in certain contexts. Job interviews have their own kind of performance to them. So there's certain norms that you wouldn't necessarily open up your heart to everything in that situation, but you have some sense of what would be the appropriate level of vulnerability that would be genuinely me in that situation, and learning how to be able to be in touch with that is very much an attractor for people, and people want to be with people who are genuine because it gives them a chance to be genuine themselves. And so I think it's a really important thing for people to be aware of, to understand what that involves, and when we notice when we're not being genuine, or other people aren't, in our reactions to that. So I really encourage it, and Lisa does a wonderful job with that presentation as well. So I encourage you to, if that's of interest to you, as it has been for me for many years, I encourage you to attend.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Medlock. And I thought you were going to say something about existentialism in there. I guess you did, but didn't use the word directly.
That's right.
And I'm so beautiful. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. This is Career Lab Wednesday. We're here from noon to 1 every week. We're going to be signing off a little bit early today. Dr. Medlock, I know you're running out the door here, but thank you for joining in to be with us. Okay. And if there's any more that you want, I would love to set up a time to talk with you. 15 minutes, I'll serve you as much as I can in that 15 minutes. And anything that we don't get to, we can continue on with something else. But that's a great next step from this as well, if an evening workshop doesn't work for you. So Jane, thank you for sharing my calendar there. I'm booked up this week, but grab a spot, 15 minutes with me. I would love to talk with you and serve you as much as I can in there. And Sahar, thank you so much for your openness, vulnerability, and taking us into the deep dive of processing and getting the most from interviewing. So really appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Sure. Glad to share.
Okay. Take care, everybody. We'll see you. All right.
All right. Beautiful work, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.